His hand grips a knife. It's 1983. William Afton is sitting inside his car outside Henry Emily's diner, watching Charlotte cry in the rain. She's locked out. She's vulnerable. Every ghost, every burning building, and every ruined life across 30 years of nightmares. All of it starts the second he opens that car door. But what if he doesn't? What if William Afton, the genius and co-founder of a billion-dollar empire, looks at that little crying girl and chooses something different? What if he just rolls down his window and offers her a ride home? To rewrite this timeline, we have to start at the exact moment this original timeline broke. It's 1983. Fredbear's family diner is doing well, but William Afton is miserable. He's a brilliant engineer, but he feels completely eclipsed by Henry Emily's artistic charm. Henry is the face of the company. William is just the guy in the background. William pulls his car into the back alley. He sees Charlie locked out in the cold rain. The intrusive, violent thoughts flood his mind. He wants to hurt Henry. He wants to take away the thing Henry loves most. He actually reaches for the door handle, but then the analytical side of William's brain overrides his emotional rage. William is, above all things, a control freak and a businessman. He stops and calculates the long-term variables. If Charlie dies here, on company property, Henry will be destroyed. But if Henry is destroyed, Henry stops building animatronics. If Henry stops building, Fredbear's family diner goes bankrupt. If the diner goes bankrupt, William loses his income, his lab, and his own legacy. William realizes that killing Charlie will give him one moment of satisfaction and destroy everything he actually wants. His resentment doesn't disappear, neither does his need for control. His jealousy of Henry is still there, and so is his obsession with being remembered. He simply finds a more useful target for all of it. True victory isn't destroying Henry's family, it's building something so successful that nobody can ever dismiss William Afton as a man standing behind Henry Emily again. He takes his hand off the door handle. He rolls down the passenger window. "Charlie!" William calls out, "Get in the car, you'll catch a cold. Let's get you back inside to your father." Charlie wipes her tears, smiles, and climbs in. William drives her around to the front entrance. He walks her inside and hands her back to Henry. Henry thanks his old friend. William forces a smile, but in his head, a new, healthier obsession is born. He won't kill children. He'll build a corporate empire so massive that nobody will ever overlook William Afton again. The impulse to murder dies there, but the darkness behind it doesn't. William is still obsessive, controlling, jealous, and desperate to matter. The difference is that from this night forward, he decides his legacy will be built instead of buried. Because William's obsession is now focused on building an empire, his behavior at home changes. Not because he suddenly becomes a warm father, but because his family is part of the legacy he's trying to control. William expects the Aftons to look disciplined, successful, and untouchable. That makes Michael's treatment of Evan much harder for him to ignore. William isn't intervening out of tenderness. He's intervening because chaos inside of his own house feels like failure. A week before Evan's birthday party, William walks into the living room and catches Michael wearing the Foxy mask. In this timeline, William happens to catch Michael wearing the Foxy mask and tormenting Evan. William drops his briefcase. He grabs Michael by the shoulder, rips the Foxy mask off his face, and grounds him for a month. He looks Michael dead in the eyes and tells him if he ever pulls a stunt like that at the diner, he'll be working in the basement for the next 5 years. Michael is terrified and stops the bullying immediately. When Evan's birthday party at Fredbear Family Diner arrives, Michael doesn't invite his delinquent friends. He doesn't pick Evan up. He doesn't carry his little brother to the stage. He just sits in the corner, eating pizza, looking miserable while Evan enjoys his birthday in peace. The bite of 83 never happens. Fredbear's jaws keep singing normally. Evan survives. He doesn't suffer the catastrophic head injury that would have followed the bite. Whatever the exact nature of the nightmares and experiments associated with FNAF 4, this timeline no longer has the same event pushing Evan towards that fate. He grows up as a quiet, intelligent kid who slowly learns to understand the mechanical mascots he once feared. Now, keeping Evan alive doesn't magically make William a good man, but it does prevent one enormous fracture from tearing through the Afton family. William remains strict, controlling, and difficult, but the family stays intact long enough for each of his children to grow into something very different. With Charlie alive and Evan unharmed, the 1980s become the golden age of Fazbear Entertainment. The business partnership between Henry Emily and William Afton solidifies into an unstoppable powerhouse. They're the Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak of animatronic entertainment. Henry is the heart of the company. He designs the characters, writes the jingles, and creates the welcoming, warm atmosphere the kids absolutely love. He's the guy shaking hands and kissing babies. William is the brain. He handles the logistics, the franchise expansion, the legal contracts, and the complex internal engineering of the robots. William realizes that the spring-lock suits are a liability. They're dangerous, heavy, and prone to moisture failure. In the original timeline, he didn't care because human life meant nothing to him. Now, human life represents potential lawsuits that could drain his bank accounts. William immediately discontinues the spring-lock suits before catastrophic failure ever happens. He locks Fredbear and Spring Bonnie in the vault, preserving them as historical company relics. Instead, he works with Henry to design the 4 core animatronics: Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Because William isn't distracted by planning secret murders, he puts 100% of his brain into the robotics. The 1985 animatronics aren't the clunky, stiff, leaking machines from the original timeline. They're incredibly advanced robots that far exceed anything Chuck E. Cheese could ever dream of building. Fazbear Entertainment opens its flagship Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location. It's an astronomical success. There's no missing children incident, or blood oozing from eye sockets, or any foul odor coming from inside the suits. The pizzeria is just a place where families come to spend their weekends. William franchises the brand aggressively. Within 3 years, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza spread through major cities across the United States. William becomes incredibly wealthy, and increasingly ruthless about protecting what he built. He squeezes competitors, and demands impossible standards from managers, as well as treating every failed location like a personal insult. He looks at the Empire, and knows he made the right choice in that alleyway. Not because he became kinder, because this version of revenge is working, but something small is nagging at the back of his mind. During routine maintenance checks on the older animatronics, his engineers keep flagging a minor anomaly in the metal endoskeletons. Nothing alarming, just a faint, unexplained electromagnetic charge building up in the older machines. The ones that have been performing the longest. William files that under maintenance notes and keeps moving. He has a company to build. He doesn't know yet that the answer to that anomaly will change everything. And while William is building his empire, his children are growing up in a version of this family they've never seen before. A functional one. Michael Afton grows out of his rebellious phase. Because he doesn't carry the immense guilt of killing his little brother, he doesn't become the self-hating, depressive drifter we see in the original games. Instead, William grooms him to take over the corporate side of the business. Michael goes to a prestigious college, gets a degree in business management, and returns to Fazbear Entertainment as VP of Operations. He's tough and protective of the company's brand image. The lesson William drilled into him after the bullying incident never really leaves. If something under your watch goes wrong, you own it. As Fazbear grows, Michael becomes increasingly obsessed with operational security. He oversees loss prevention, emergency planning, facility access, and eventually the security systems protecting the company's largest properties. He acts as William's right-hand man, dealing with competitors, and handling the daily operations of the massive restaurant chain. Elizabeth Afton's fate changes the most. In the original timeline, William's neglect and his twisted inventions led directly to Elizabeth getting scooped and killed by Circus Baby. In this timeline, Circus Baby is never built as a murder machine. We'll get to the fun times in a second, but the important thing is that Elizabeth is safe. She grows up a normal kid, genuinely close to her father, and eventually becomes a primary voice actress and public face of the Fazbear brand. Whenever there's a commercial, a cartoon, or a public event, Elizabeth is front and center. She loves the spotlight, and William spoils her endlessly with wealth. Evan Afton is the one that catches William completely off guard. It happens on a Tuesday afternoon. Evan has spent years around the machines he once feared. At first, learning how they worked was simply his way of making them less frightening. Then curiosity took over. He started reading maintenance manuals, watching engineers work, and teaching himself enough code to understand why the characters moved the way they did. William walks into the engineering lab looking for a maintenance report and finds Evan, 16 years old, sitting in front of a custom terminal he's built by himself out of spare parts from the workshop. He's been there for 3 hours. Evan doesn't look up. On the stage at the far end of the lab, Freddy Fazbear's original 1985 endoskeleton suddenly tilts his head to the side and lets out a deep, surprised laugh. Not the standard program laugh, something new. A genuine reaction to a joke in Evan's code that Evan had written, tested, and refined on his own. William stands there in the doorway for a full 10 seconds without saying a word. He had always looked at Evan and seen a nervous, frightened kid who needed protecting. He looks at him now and sees something else entirely. He sees himself, the engine under the hood, the guy in the background who actually makes everything work. William walks over, pulls up a chair, and says, "Show me what you did." That afternoon is where the future of Fazbear Entertainment is actually decided. Evan discovers he has a massive talent for computer programming and software development. While Henry carves the physical suits and William builds the metal endoskeletons, Evan starts writing the code that brings the characters to life. The Afton family isn't perfect. William is still a strict father. He expects perfection from his kids, but they aren't a haunted mess. They're a powerful, wealthy dynasty, the royalty of the entertainment industry. By the late 1980s, William gets bored with the standard Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy models. They're too simple for his intellect. He wants to push the boundaries of modern robotics. He wants to build machines that look and act almost indistinguishably from living, breathing performers. He makes a subsidiary company called Afton Robotics, operating entirely under the Fazbear Entertainment umbrella. Here, he designs the Funtime animatronics, Circus Baby, Allura, Funtime Freddy, and Funtime Foxy. In the OG timeline, these were secret killing machines, equipped with voice mimicking technology, as well as isolated tracking sensors and massive stomach cavities designed to capture and crush solitary children. In this timeline, William builds them with the exact same level of technological brilliance, but purely for Broadway-level entertainment. Allura is engineered with complex stabilizers that let her perform flawless ballet routines on a stage without any visible support wires. Circus Baby is designed with advanced AI. She can dispense ice cream, inflate balloons directly from her fingertips, and hold full conversations with kids using a massive database of pre-recorded dialogue and early machine learning algorithms. Funtime Freddy is a master of ventriloquist, using localized audio projection tech to make Bon Bon the hand puppet sound completely independent. These animatronics are so advanced that the entire tech industry takes notice. Afton Robotics is pushing the absolute cutting edge of AI. They open an exclusive venue called Circus Baby's Pizza World, an upscale entertainment experience that rivals the best shows in Vegas. Elizabeth voices Circus Baby, safe and proud of her father's creation. The sister location game never happens. There's no underground bunker filled with angry, mangled robots trying to cobble themselves into Ennard. The fun times are just beloved centerpieces of a thriving empire. But in the glass towers of competing tech firms, executives are starting to ask questions. The AI powering Williams animatronics is performing at a level that no known software architecture can explain. The facial recognition alone in the newer models is 5 years ahead of anything publicly documented. People are starting to wonder how, but William doesn't know that anyone is watching. In the late 1990s, William William is doing routine maintenance on the original Freddy Fazbear animatronics. These machines have been standing on stages for over a decade, performing for millions of children. As William breaks down one of the old endoskeletons to upgrade it, he notices the same anomaly his engineers have been filing away in maintenance reports for years. The metal is faintly glowing. It possesses an electromagnetic charge that defies standard physics. William takes a sample back to his lab and runs extensive tests. He can't fully explain what he finds. The metal appears to have retained an emotional imprint from years of children hugging the characters, cheering for them, and treating the machines like they were alive. William has no established rulebook for what this phenomenon is. He only knows that emotion appears capable of leaving something behind in matter. That maintenance note that's been sitting in his drawer for over a decade wasn't a maintenance problem. It was a discovery. William begins asking the question his original counterpart would have approached from the opposite direction. If suffering can leave an imprint, could joy do the same? He experiments cautiously with what he starts calling positive remnant, his own name for the strange residue accumulating inside the machines. Instead of creating pain to produce more of it, William realizes the apparent effect grows stronger in animatronics exposed to years of intense positive interaction. He begins integrating tiny samples into the Funtime animatronics processors. The results are staggering. The animatronics stop behaving like program machines and start exhibiting genuine sentience. They develop distinct, friendly personalities. They can improvise jokes. They can comfort crying children perfectly. They become actual living mascots. Because the remnant is derived from joy rather than agony, the robots aren't aggressive. They don't stalk night guards. They don't try to stuff anyone into a suit. If a security guard works the night shift, the animatronics just wave at the cameras, maybe practice or dance routines in the empty dining halls, then happily shut themselves down for maintenance. The supernatural element of FNAF still exists, but it's a miracle of science, not a cursed nightmare. Now here's where it gets complicated. The animatronics infused with positive remnant are performing at a level that is, by every measurable standard, impossible. No code is sophisticated enough to explain it. No hardware chip accounts for it. And the people most interested in that discovery aren't outside the company. By the time Fazbear Entertainment becomes a global conglomerate, William and Henry no longer control every room where the decisions are made. There's investors and executives, a board, and licensing partners that see the impossible performance of the animatronics and ask the same question William once did. What else can this technology become? A private advanced systems division begins studying the remnant-powered machines without William's approval. To them, sentient animatronics aren't mascots. They're proprietary technology worth billions. William has spent his entire life building an empire too large for anyone to ignore. Now the empire is large enough to stop listening to him. Armed with sentient, joyful animatronics, Fazbear Entertainment explodes into a multi-billion-dollar global conglomerate. Henry Emily focuses on expanding the brand's media presence. He launches Fredbear and Friends, a successful Saturday morning cartoon that rivals Looney Tunes and Disney. They sell millions of plush toys and action figures. Henry is thriving. Charlie is growing up. William focuses on physical expansion. They move far beyond simple pizzerias. They build massive plots of land in Florida and California. They build Fazbear's Mega Park, a theme park that's built to go toe-to-toe with Disney World. The strange thing is, the buildings are all the same names, the same locations, just without the blood. FNAF 2 introduced the toy animatronics with their facial recognition software. In this timeline, that same technology is deployed across the theme parks as a safety system. The toys scan incoming crowds, identify registered family groups, and automatically alert staff if a child wanders more than 100 feet from their party. Parents love it. FNAF 3 was originally the story of Fazbear's Fright, a horror attraction built on the burned ruins of a company's tragic past, with something ancient and fierce buried in the walls. In this timeline, the building on that same plot of land is called the Fazbear Museum of Robotics. It's an educational tour of the company's entire history, and at the very center of the exhibit, behind thick tempered glass, are the original Springlock suits, Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. Their golden paint is faded. Their endoskeleton teeth are visible through the exterior fabric. A small bronze plaque underneath each one reads, "Retired, 1983. Preserved by order of William Afton." Visitors stand in front of them and feel something they can't quite name. There's no Springtrap hiding in the shadows, just history. Pizzeria Simulator is just what it says it is, an addictive management video game released by Fazbear Entertainment, where fans design their own virtual restaurants. It sells millions of copies. And Security Breach. In the original timeline, the Mega Pizzaplex is a tomb. The lights are dazzling, the venue is enormous, and underneath it all, William Afton is harvesting kids in the basement while corrupted glam rock stalk a terrified child through the dark. In this timeline, the Mega Pizzaplex is exactly what it looks like, the biggest, most technically advanced indoor entertainment center ever built. The glam rock animatronics, Freddy, Chica, Monty, and Roxy, perform sold-out concerts every single night. The crowds are massive. The remnant energy pouring off those audiences every single evening is more powerful than anything William ever calculated. The Pizzaplex isn't a tomb. It's the most concentrated source of positive remnant on the planet, which is exactly why Fazbear's own advanced systems division selects the Pizzaplex as its primary test site. The empire is no longer airtight. Fazbear's advanced systems division has spent years studying the company's most sophisticated animatronics. Their engineers can reproduce the hardware. They can copy Evan's software architecture. What they can't reproduce is a strange emotional residue inside the machines. So a small group of executives makes a decision that William would have understood perfectly in another life. If the discovery won't be surrendered willingly, take it. They authorize a covert extraction under the cover of an oversight systems audit. A private security team is sent into the Mega Pizzaplex with one objective: remove a fully intact glamrock endoskeleton containing a remnant-infused core and transfer it to a restricted research facility before William, Henry, or the Afton children can stop them. The plan is designed to look internal because it is internal. Access credentials are legitimate. Cameras are scheduled for maintenance. maintenance. System logs are set to purge the anomalous entries after the operation. The night shift at Freddy Fazbear's isn't about surviving haunted robots anymore. This time, the danger is the corporation William built, deciding that its own creations are assets before they're people. The animatronics aren't the threat. This time, they're the targets. This is where Michael Afton earns everything. As VP of Operations and head of global security for Fazbear Entertainment, Michael takes this personally. He isn't the purple, rotting zombie from the original timeline, shuffling through life looking for answers to questions he can barely face. He spent his adult life preparing for the moment something under his watch goes wrong. When the extraction team enters the Pizzaplex using legitimate Fazbear credentials, they think the internal authorization makes him invisible. What they don't know is that Michael noticed a reconnaissance pattern 3 weeks ago, and quietly separated the building's security network from the corporate systems the executives control. Evan is already at his command station miles away, running the entire digital grid of the building. The moment the first mercenary's boot hits the atrium floor, Evan loops her camera feeds. Their remote handlers are watching footage from an hour ago. He hacks into their encrypted comms and starts feeding false position data to their team leads. He tracks their heat signatures through the mall's ventilation system in real time, pushing coordinates directly into Michael's earpiece. The mercenaries think they're hunting. They don't realize they're being herded. Michael uses the entire sprawling structure of the Pizzaplex as a weaponized fortress. And the Glamrocks aren't just sitting there. Because they're infused with positive remnant and genuinely sentient, they understand exactly what's happening. They don't need orders. When the lead team tries to breach the main atrium towards the tech storage corridor, Glamrock Freddy steps directly into the access hallway and plants himself. He tanks the EMP device they throw. His advanced internal shielding was built specifically to protect the remnant core from electromagnetic interference. Down in the dark, twisting mazes of the Fazbear Blast Arena, Roxy uses her optical sensors to track the secondary team through pitch black fog, feeding their exact movements back to Evan. Chica pinpoints the third team by the sound of their suppressed footsteps on the tile floor. Coordinates relayed, positions confirmed. By 3:47 a.m., it's over. The extraction team is walked out through the Pizzaplex's loading dock in restraints when local law enforcement arrives. The transfer vehicle waiting 2 blocks away seized before a single crate is loaded. The Glamrock Freddy endoskeleton the executives came for is back on its charging mount, completely intact. Evan sends a single message to Michael's phone. 2 words on a dark screen. Threat neutralized. Then he closes his laptop and goes to sleep. The scandal never becomes a public war, but inside Fazbear Entertainment, it changes everything. The executives behind the extraction are removed. The Advanced Systems division is dismantled, and William is forced to confront something he spent decades refusing to believe. Building the biggest empire in the room doesn't mean you control what it becomes. Because there's no horrific tragedy attached to the brand, the cultural footprint of Fazbear Entertainment looks nothing like what we know. Freddy Fazbear, Bonnie the Bunny, and Chica the Chicken occupy the same cultural space as Mickey Mouse and SpongeBob SquarePants. Universally beloved, completely clean, and floating in the Thanksgiving Day parade. There's no Reddit threads dedicated to solving the missing children timeline. There's no urban legends about night guards going missing. Game theory still exists, but instead of trying to figure out which dead child possesses which suit, they make videos analyzing the incredible AI algorithms powering the Glamrocks and never get anywhere close to the real answer. The fandom is massive. It's just driven by celebration instead of horror. Eventually, the years catch up to everyone. We reach the late 2020s. Henry, Emily, and William Afton are old men now, aging billionaires, and the undisputed architect of a global entertainment empire. Henry became its conscience. William became its engine. He was brilliant and demanding and controlling, and often exhausting to everyone around him. They didn't spend their adult lives fighting a blood-soaked war against each other. They spent them arguing over designs, expansions, money, control, and what Fazbear Entertainment was supposed to become. Somehow, they kept building anyway. Henry is content. He watches his daughter, Charlie, grow up to become a brilliant artist and writer, eventually taking over the creative direction of the entire company. She makes sure the characters always retain their heart, their warmth, and their welcoming spirit, preventing the corporation from losing its soul. Henry never has to build a puppet to protect her from a murderer. He didn't spend 30 years grieving her loss. He just got to be a normal, proud, loving father, watching his daughter succeed. William never completely loses the obsession that almost destroyed him in 1983. He still hates being overlooked. He still wants control, and as he gets older, the idea of disappearing terrifies him. But this William discovers another answer to the same obsession. He doesn't need to force his soul into a rusting metal rabbit to survive death. He has spent decades forcing his name into culture instead. Restaurants, characters, machines, parks, patents, Reddit threads, YouTube videos. An empire so enormous that William Afton will remain a part of the world long after William Afton is gone. It isn't sainthood, it's immortality by legacy. He passes the CEO title to Michael, knowing his oldest son will protect the company's market dominance against anyone who comes for it. He passes head of research and development to Evan, knowing his youngest son will keep pushing the positive remnant AI in ethical directions that William himself never fully mapped out. And he watches Elizabeth continue to dazzle the world as a beloved voice and the face of the Fazbear brand. On his final day at corporate headquarters, William stands in the glass window on his top floor executive office. He looks out over the sprawling, brightly lit city below him. He sees a glowing neon sign of a massive Freddy Fazbear's mega pizzaplex lighting up the horizon in the distance. He thinks back to that cold, rainy night in 1983. He remembers the grip of the knife in his hand. He remembers the overwhelming jealousy that almost pushed him over the edge. He remembers the exact moment he almost threw his entire life and his family's entire future away just to satisfy a fleeting moment of bitter anger. He smiles softly. The legacy isn't perfect, neither is he, but it exists without a trail of bodies beneath it. William turns away from the window, grabs his briefcase, and walks out of his office, closing the door. In this universe, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is exactly what it was always supposed to be, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike.